All In Sports Network. We love sports.
It is here, finally, Texas A&M, Kyle Field in just a few days on November 30th, Saturday, 6:30, really probably closer to 6:50, kickoff at Kyle Field. Ben Peck here with you on All In Aggies. We're finally going to talk about it. Apologize for being gone for the weekend. We have a huge special I'm putting together for my new station, KCEN 6 Plus app. If you search the 6 Plus app on Roku, Fire TV, and Apple TV, you can see we're going to do a 30-minute special on this game between Texas A&M and Texas. So I've been working on a bunch of different stuff. A lot of it's going to appear on this channel as well, so just be ready for that. But that has been part of my absence. Anyways, want to get to what some of the players have to say about this game. In order to do that in the best way possible and get up here as quick as I can, want to show you the report we put together for yesterday's newscast, which touches on what these players had to say about the rivalry. Good evening from College Station with Sydney Wicker. I'm Ben Peck, just outside Kyle Field, where we are about to see a clash for the ages, Texas and Texas A&M. Looking at the Aggies' perspective, really weird set of circumstances after Saturday's game. You lose a heartbreaker in quadruple overtime to Auburn. Disappointment. It looks like everything's lost, but then wait a second. You look at tiebreaker scenario 1, 2. The Aggies still have a path to the college football playoff in the SEC championship game.
Everything is falling into place for the Aggies' sake, but we know that this game is the one that it all comes down to. We already knew there was going to be a lot of hype and anticipation heading into this one, but a lot at stake for both teams on Saturday.
Well, let's just say this. I wasn't a happy camper after we lost, but when I found out that we had a chance to still go to the SEC championship, it gave us a little bit of hope, and the mood after the game was actually pretty uplifting. Everybody knew that we battled. We came up one play short. I mean, that's just how it goes sometimes in football, but to understand that we have an opportunity to still go play in Atlanta, I mean, that's God's gift, so we got to go take advantage of it.
The football gods blessed us with another chance, and so, this game was always going to mean something. You guys have been asking me about it since the day I got hired, and now it means everything.
I can't say I've gone back and watched the games, but I've been dreaming of playing in this game ever since I was a kid. When I started playing football, I was born and raised in Aggies, so I've been dreaming about playing in this game my whole life. So it's finally here, and it's such an honor to get to play in it.
I imagine just to be like something like Auburn or Alabama, Michigan, Ohio State, one of those. Just being in this kind of environment on a Saturday night in Kyle Field and playing Texas, I mean, it's something you always dream about.
Kickoff 6:30 Saturday, and again, if you don't already know the scenario, Georgia is going to be in the SEC championship game against the winner of Texas and Texas A&M, and I'm so looking forward to it.
It doesn't get bigger than that, and if you're excited for this game, Ben and I, we put in some work this week, starting on Wednesday at 6:30 on the 6 Plus app exclusively. You can download our app and then watch our entire special that we put together. We're able to talk to house-divided families, get to hear a little bit from the Temple guy himself, Torian York, and his family, and so much more. That all airs at 6:30 on Wednesday on our app once again.
Absolutely, be sure to check it out, and we will see you throughout the week looking ahead to this game as well. With Sydney Wicker, I'm Ben Peck. That's it for sports. All right, and again, not to overly plug my employer, but if you want to check out that special, if you have, like I said, Roku, Fire TV, and Apple TV, that's the only place it's available. It's not on your phone. But if you have one of those devices, if you search KCEN and get the 6 Plus app, you can see that special. It streams live 6:30 Wednesday, but it will be up there for replay afterwards as well. So been putting in a lot of work on that. I'm working on a story with Torian York, Temple native, and talking to his family. So that's going to be a lot of fun later on today. We've got a house divided, as I think Sydney talked about. We've got, a look back at some of the best moments in the rivalry, a touch on the bonfire anniversary, 25th year anniversary of the bonfire collapse and the memorial, some scenes from that, just a lot of stuff going into it. But now let's talk about this game on the field. You heard the players talk about it, and Texas A&M, like I just said there, a weird set of circumstances where you feel like, man, all is lost. That was our chance. Now you can spoil things for Texas, but really there's no path for the Aggies until all of a sudden, somehow, they're still alive. You heard Torian York and Mike Elko talking about kind of the rejuvenation of still being in it and still having a chance and opportunity to come back and to see what they can do, not just against Texas, but against Georgia, potentially if you make it to the SEC championship game. Still unclear to me, and we'll find out when the college football playoff rankings come out tonight. Is there a path for A&M to beat Texas, and is there any way a 4-loss SEC team makes it? I don't think so. I think, just to really address that quickly, I think the only way you're going to have an A&M loss, I think maybe Georgia could lose again and make it in, but I think for A&M to make it in as an SEC championship game finalist with 4 losses, you would need like literally everything to break your way. I don't even know who Penn State plays, but you'd probably need like Indiana to lose somehow to Purdue. Penn State plays Maryland. I don't know how likely that would be, but Miami at Syracuse, I think that could actually be a tricky game, because now I think the way everything shook out, like you could look at the ACC runner-up potentially getting in now. Again, we'll see how the rankings shake out later on tonight, and that'll give us a better idea. But long story short, I do think it's absolutely win all the way in. Maybe Georgia Tech beats Georgia, something crazy like that. But I don't think. But at that point, if we're talking that scenario, then Georgia still would have won the SEC championship game. So that's even a moot point. That game doesn't matter as far as that goes. But I do think it's win or in all the way. And as far as Texas, now here's my warning to Texas fans. I think Texas A&M will feel like not quite a team of destiny, but bear with me on this. It has not been a story. In some ways, it has been a storybook year for Texas A&M in the sense you've got a first-year head coach, you've got a chance to do something that no other Texas A&M team has done before, make it to the SEC championship game and make it to the college football playoff. That being said, it has not been a perfect season. This is a flawed team, always has been. It has always felt like they're still probably a year away to me, and more accurately, a year ahead of schedule right now. But if A&M is in this game late, I think it will feel like a team of destiny in the sense that Texas A&M was always destined to win this game, especially having the type of year they've had to this point. I'm not saying they're like 2011 Auburn or whatever team. I think 2011 Auburn, the kick 6 team that lost to Jimbo. I'm not saying they're team of destiny like that, but I think if you get to a point where the game hangs in the balance and they have a shot, just like LSU game. They were dead in that game, but they come back, and you just felt like once they took the momentum, once they turned the tide, there's no way LSU's going to be able to come back in this game. Like things are rolling for Texas A&M. And I think if it ever gets to that point in the second half, unlike previous A&M teams, with everything on the line, with the desire to win this rivalry game, that is going to be tough. You know, we saw even Auburn, right? South Carolina. We saw how it felt for those teams. And it just felt like once South Carolina got rolling again in Columbia, I don't know how y'all felt. I felt watching it like they're not going to give this back up. Auburn, same thing. Now, Auburn was a little dicier because they did have to drive the field and they did get stopped. And, you know, it came down to garbage overtime system. I've thought that well before that game and not depending on how that result was. I've always hated the 2-point conversions, but the longer that game went on, you felt like, man, Auburn, you're playing with fire. Like, now that sense it was playing with fire. If A&M needs to get Texas in a sense like South Carolina did against A&M, to where it's not just you're playing with fire, like you've already been burned a little bit, and now you've got to put this out in 2 seconds, otherwise you're going to get cooked. So what could do that? The defensive line. I said watching Texas when they were struggling for a little bit against Kentucky, some throws, dropping snaps, a few things here and there. Like that Quinn Ewers is not going to beat Texas A&M. I'm not saying that's the Quinn Ewers we're going to see, but and I've got to be honest. I don't think if I was a Texas fan, I'd be feeling great about how this team has looked coming into this game. Auburn, weirdly enough, the defense has kind of bailed them out more than the offense. But even the defense, like you're playing, the Florida game, they don't get any credit for because of the quarterback situation. The offense did look good in that situation. I will give them that. But complimentary football, you can't get anything going on offense. You throw your defense to the wolves like that all the time, I think you're asking for trouble. And I think it kind of caught up with Florida. Arkansas was a weird game. Like the defense came through, and I know their defense has been really good statistically, but the offense just did not look like they were clicking. The offense did not look like it was clicking to me against Kentucky either. And I know both those teams can give you problems in different ways, but I don't think it's anything Texas A&M can't do at home. In Austin, I mean, even in Austin, I think they could give them trouble, but I think at home, they're going to present challenges. Now, where I'm worried, and you'll see this in our content throughout the week, what I'm worried about is the secondary for A&M against the receivers and not even the bus over the top. We saw that a little bit against Auburn, but for me, it's more so the perimeter tackling. That let them down against both Auburn, South Carolina. That was big. There were some plays against LSU. They had the slant that went for touchdown to Anderson for LSU. I think Dalton Brooks, just one missed tackle and he's gone. Texas will be able to make you pay like that. So I don't love that. I know their run game is a little up and down. They've had some injuries just like A&M has at the running back department. So I think it's going to come down to offensively for them. Is Quinn Ewers going to be able to – are they going to be able to protect him? And is he going to be able to be that guy and step up and make the throws he needs to make when they're there to be made? I don't have that answer, but I can tell you, again, the longer they let A&M hang around this game, I think the more the team will settle in. They've started slow the last few SEC games A&M has, so that concerns me a little bit, but I will say the two of those were on the road, and the one was LSU where they obviously made a big change at quarterback that you could maybe attribute to some of that. So, if you start the game with Marcel, you're at home. I think we did see them start well against New Mexico State for whatever that's worth. But offensively, they got in a rhythm there to start off. So I think you just got to steady the ship. Don't turn the ball over. Don't give them easy opportunities. Make them drive the length of the field and see if you can show that defense, while statistically has been very impressive, has not had to face a complimentary team such as Texas A&M before, save for Georgia, and we saw how that Georgia game went. I think that's the key for A&M at this point. Just touching briefly on the whole pass rush situation, interesting stat, and shout out to Texag's Luke Evangelist for uncovering this, that A&M has not been called, A&M opponents have not been called for a holding penalty since the third quarter against Bowling Green, including the 4 overtime periods. So we'll touch on this a little bit after hearing from Mike Elko, but David Nuno, the great Nuno, asked about this to Mike Elko, and he's the one you're going to hear going back and forth with Coach about the lack of holding calls against the Aggie opponents, and if he has any thoughts about that.
I'm not trying to get you in trouble, but I got a question.
Okay.
Can you raise concerns about trends to SEC about officiating? Your opponents have not been called for holding in 30 quarters. That does not include the 4 overtimes.
Yeah. Somebody did this recently in a press conference, so I'll try this. Did you see any holds Saturday night?
Plenty.
Okay.
And that was Josh Heupel, by the way, who did that, if you were curious, after the Georgia game, I want to say. So where that's interesting to me, other than the trend is kind of absurd, is maybe that has been a big contributing factor in the whole sack discussion we've had, to where they get pressure, but the sack numbers aren't there. And are they ever going to break through? Well, lo and behold, maybe that has something to do with it. You know, you're not getting people backed up in past obvious situations. That limits the amount of times and the extent to which you can create those opportunities to pile on. So I thought that was an interesting tidbit, interesting nugget. Obviously, having a little fun there with Nuno, but yeah, I think that is just worth noting in terms of not only monitoring that in the game, but as a possible reason and a possible explanation for why maybe some of the sack numbers, not all of them, but some of the sack numbers may be a little depreciated from where they should be. All right, that is trying to think if there's anything top of my mind. Ticket prices are crazy. I don't know what y'all are doing, spending this much money going to a game. I mean, I get it, but it is crazy to think about it. Listen, we're gonna be there. Really looking forward to it, and it's gonna be a night to remember. I think that would be my last little parting message for today. Just enjoy it. It's not often you get this late in the season and still contend for a conference title, a playoff spot. Hopefully, playoff spots, you'll be in contention this late in the year, many, many years. But that's the threshold, right? Is when they brought in Mike Elko, the whole idea was A&M. I think this is what Ross Bjork said at the time, and I think he was right about this. There's no reason A&M every year should be a perennial playoff contender, and they are. You know, now whether they're like a playoff champion contender, that's a different discussion, but they're in the mix in year one with a redshirt freshman quarterback that's got 3 years left. You're going up against a very good team against Texas that has, you know, a quarterback that will be drafted high, bookend first round talent on the offensive tackle spot for Texas. Kelvin Banks, one of the best in the nation the last few years. My point is Texas has got playmakers, and there may be an advanced version of what you are, but compare year one for Elko to year one for Steve Sarkisian. A&M is way ahead, and we saw what Texas was able to do. Now, they were able to build that up within the Big 12, and something we'll have discussions on here with some of my other guests coming up later this week is, you know, the urgency of the SEC is different to where in the Big 12, if you're Texas or Oklahoma, you can be down for a little bit, and that mountain it's more of a hill to climb back up to the top as opposed to a mountain. Like if you fall down, Tennessee, Auburn, Georgia, I mean, just ask Auburn, Florida. Like these teams aren't extending a hand waiting to pull you up and help you back up the mountain. Like you fall, that's on your own, right? Like remember where Florida was with way back in the day. I mean, I know we're talking different like generations of college football, but like Florida was like a dynasty with Urban Meyer. They were one of the hottest programs in the country. Now look where they are. And I know they got DJ Lagway, they've got pieces they're trying to build, but you know, Mizzou was okay for a while. Then they popped off last year and actually having a decent year this year as well in terms of just pure record. So my point is, instead of a power vacuum of Oklahoma, Texas, you have about, you have a whole handful, 6, 7, 8 Oklahoma, Texases, to where if you fall down, it's going to be harder to get back up. So that's why it was imperative. The urgency is there for A&M to start off well, because you can't get away with even a first-year head coach. A&M would not have been able to get away with a 5-7, 6-6. And I think Oklahoma's still in trouble. I know they had a good win against Alabama, and they needed that. But they still have a lot of question marks moving forward. So A&M, just be glad that they are where they are. 8-4, 9-3, I think is a solid year. I think 9-3, especially getting to play in Atlanta, is a fantastic year with the Atlanta piece in there. 8-4, I know that would hurt, but big picture, I think they're in a good spot. They're in a good place. You can attract talent. You can sell a vision. And my, oh my, are you going to be able to sell an environment on Saturday at Kyle Field? So just enjoy it. Appreciate it. Soak it in. I cannot put into words how much I'm looking forward to that game, just from an intrigue standpoint. But it'll be great. It'll be a lot of fun. We're looking forward to it. We're looking forward to bringing you coverage throughout the week. Looking forward to it as well. So going to sign off here for now. Again, we got college football playoff rankings coming out later on tonight. We'll probably talk about that maybe a little bit tomorrow. But we're going to talk with the guys from All in Horns. We're going to talk with Jeff Jones down at ABC in Austin, KView, our sister station. We're going to talk to a whole host of people. So be sure to buckle up, check that out, and we will see you later on this week. It's Beat the Hell Out of Texas week. Let's see if the Aggies can do it. If they can be a team of destiny on Saturday night. If it feels like A&M is destined to win that game. So we'll see how it goes.
All in Sports Network. We love sports.